media buying communities today asked a very interesting question. We broke it up into parts here, and I thought I would share it on the channel. My goal with this is to help showcase how we do things, how we go about things, and also show, like, with these Done With You programs, a little bit about myself. My name is Rob, hence Robbie's Matrix. I'm a 5-year digital marketer. I don't know, man. I've been in the game for a while. I've started out, freelancing, and then got to do some cool agency startup projects. And then, I'm here now in more of the growth consulting side of things. And a lot of the clients that I've picked up lately have been a lot of done with you, done for you programs that's growing in the coaching space, because you got people, you have an info offer, and then, they're willing to pay a little more to get a little more stuff. So it's been trending. So what I want to start doing with this series is show the questions, because we're going to have a lot of case studies here, from what I've been seeing. I like dozens and dozens of different businesses, different size of ad accounts. I had somebody the other day, $500 days in ad spend. And then you have somebody else who's doing their first $50. So those pipelines are different, and their problems are different, and you get to feel unique pains. Anyways, this is episode 1. We're going to, kick things off. I'm kind of limited because most of what I'm doing is white label, non-disclosure. I do have those calls and stuff, which is cool. Maybe one day I'll release them, change the voices around and stuff. But as of right now, no. This is just a recap of, my day in fractional growth consulting. This one specifically in a done with you, done for you program. So I think I'm going to take a lot of those scenarios and broadcast them here, because, if you are actively tuning in, then you're going to learn a lot about these different unique businesses, of course, without giving out trade secrets, and then the problems they're facing. So, misery loves company. If you see, oh my gosh, I'm like suffering here too, then, maybe it'll make you feel better, and maybe we can all come together and come up with a great idea on how to further your product market fit. Okay, so this is episode 1. The breakdown is really simple. So this is somebody who's getting initiated into the world of media buying. They are a marketing director, surprisingly, but their company has so it's more of a boomer business model, something in the lines of you install it into your home and it's very beneficial. Think either kitchen or bathroom. I'm not going to give away the exact product, but they are a marketing director getting started in, digital advertising efficiently. They've been doing it. They've been doing a bunch of silly little campaigns and stuff, but they haven't done it right. It's not profitable, and they haven't cracked the code. So she asked a question. I broke it up into pieces here, but I'm going to summarize it really quick. So she has 6 ads running in a sales campaign. Let me write that here, in a sales campaign. And then she has 3 ads running in an awareness campaign. Now, her question was very vague, and there's a lot of material that's missing for me to give a proper response. But what I did is deconstruct the ideal ad structure. So on this call, we can go over the bigger picture. Now, in previous periods, we've had multiple conversions. So we're going from a state of, I don't know how scaled it may be, but let's say it's 5 conversions. We're getting 5 consistent, healthy conversions a week, and now we're getting 1. Ouch, that hurts really bad. And what the heck is learning limited? That ties into it. It's really just a buzzword, and we'll go over why that is, and maybe I'm wrong. These are all my opinions, but yeah, we'll go over that. And then what's my course of action? Okay, so I had a campaign that had some volume. Here's my campaigns. What the heck happens? Why is it only getting 1 conversion? Well, we need to start with in an ideal world, what is the structure of the account? Not just the campaign, the account. You got a sales campaign and you have an awareness campaign. All right. My initial question there is, what the heck are the budget ratios? Okay. So let's go here. Let's write budget ratios. Okay. that is very important because I've seen accounts where they spend almost equal amounts between their prospecting, their retargeting, and their awareness, which is link generation, link clicks, and their traffic campaign. I've seen even splits. I've seen other ones where retargeting has good ROAS, and so then you put a bunch of budget into there. Or you see the elaborate ones, which are just more common knowledge. I got to lean more into prospecting, and then, you build them in. The ideal structure here, if you wanted to keep this as is this is my thought, but 90% into sales. We're going to do a simplified structure there. And then you could do maybe 10%, maybe 5%. I don't know, maybe put in $5 to $10 a day, making sure that you're spending a minimum of $50 on sales. Now, if you can't spend any more than $50 a day and you're wondering what's the ideal budget split between these campaign types, you need to just focus on the sales campaign, get yourself off the ground, get money focused with your traffic, and start to see conversions and testing these rates. The idea of I'm going to generate so much traffic for my business at a low CPC, and then I'm going to convert them in here. It sounds good in theory. I tested this personally, and maybe you had different results, a million ways to skin a cat. But the more I spend into traffic without having a scaled account already, so I'm investing into awareness, I'm investing into landing page views, link clicks, the less of an ROI I see. It's just a lot of the times it's bullshit. Sometimes if it's, middle funnel, it will generate carts and that looks all right. But the best way to go is leaning just into your main conversion campaign, simplified structure. Everything else is noise. Get above a 3 ROAS, get to $500 a day in ad spend, and then start thinking. But until you're at that point, because you're going to, in an ideal world, you're at that stage. Let's assume you grow from $50 to $500 a day with conviction, with proper ROAS. You're mentally going to understand different things. It's different goals. We're going to go over the ideal structure of a sales campaign. This is really beginner stuff. And at the same time, it's very controversial. This is just my opinion. That's worked best for me. That gets my clients to their target ROAS. I'm not giving out a spiel. There's a million ways to skin a cat. So if you think that there's like a better idea, like I want to hear it, comment it below. These are just my thoughts and opinions that have, worked luckily over the course of time. But you want to have a simplified campaign structure. So I'm assuming that this client is spending less than $150 a day. My personal rule of thumb, until your account is spending a good amount, which maybe that's more than $200 a day, and you're meeting target and you actually have spent tens of thousands of dollars in ad spend efficiently, don't explore other campaign types. You have so much to do in sales. You have so much to fight on and develop that it doesn't make sense to be in these other areas such as, awareness, engagement, doing this and that. Negligible amounts like $5 to $10, like, okay, cool. Like who cares? If you're willing to spend that, get some nice little bells and whistles on your page, then sure thing. But to actually invest into that campaign and factor it into your overall marketing plan and efficiency, I personally don't like that. Sales focused, get to work. You've got prospecting, which is assuming that you're not a fully built out business yet. You need to be focused on prospecting. Retargeting is something to consider down. You can have it. It's going to be a negligible amount of spend. Get proof of concept there. The main point of our conversation right now is going to be on prospecting. You need a simplified campaign structure and you need to be focused on prospecting. Everything else is noise, this list, that. No. Instagram clickers, no. Simplified structure. You have 2 routes that you can possibly go down. You have ABO, you have CBO. Get some interest conviction data points, however the heck you want to call it, but you want to test your audiences. And this is my structure. I have an Advantage Plus audience. I have an open broad audience that is just, wide open USA traffic. And then you have interests. This could be interests, demographics, just overall customer affinity. And you can be unique there. And then you have your lookalike audiences, which are people based on, your website traffic, your customer list, your engagers, whatever. And that one sounds, in my opinion, sounds better than it's actually performed. Just from what I've seen, maybe it works, better for other people, other markets, and all of that. But the bulk of my success comes from broad, and it comes from that interest affinity kind of unique set that we make. Those have been my two main levers. Now, you can either have the budget be evenly distributed or at your control. Like, let's say you want to do $60 a day, you'd go 20, 20, 20 if you're testing 3. Or you can go the CBO approach where it's like, I really just want to spend $60 a day and I do not care which audience is going to convert best. I need orders now. I need it now. It's a different approach. I personally do more of the CBO way just because I have a huge volume of clients. I have a lot of accounts that I need to go through. And in my opinion, it gets me to where I need to be faster. Maybe that's the wrong way to go, but I need to get to this target ROAS. I need to fulfill all my deliverables. CBO is like a quick, sure shot way to just make sure you're not a sure shot way, but it's a quick way to launch, get it in and go. Because with ABO, you're doing 20, 20, 20. So that's, you're not even getting the full 60 a day into any of the audiences. After 3 days of spending, $60, which is the actual daily, your ceiling that you want to spend, then you review it. So it's up to you. I personally go the faster way, but who knows? Ratios. We've already discussed this, but you need to be focused on only the sales objective campaigns. Get out of hell. Get out of this murky water. Okay, it's not, should I try this? Should I try that? Your focus needs to be on the actual ad creative. If you're not thinking about your offer and you're not thinking about the presentation of your ad, you're wasting your time. There is no saving campaign that's like, the master split, and then it's going to work for you. And I get that sounds right to be testing and doing this and that, but you're testing in the wrong area. You need to fight in that universe of sales campaigns, sales objective campaigns. Inside of there, you have audiences, which again, that's not the main fight. That is not Waterloo, okay? That's a split test that's very easy from the beginning. You get your mixed variables from what I said. Now, what are they? You can build different affinity ones. You can build one for like interest and this and that, okay? That may be multiple, but that's the summary of it, okay? You've got interest. You have regular broad. You have advantage plus broad. And then you have, this is an optional one, you have your lookalike audience based on different data points. Is it your website traffic? Is it your customer list? Who knows? So it's that. Now your focus needs to be on where the hardest part of the battle is, which is your creative and your offer. Okay, it's a two-pronged, two-headed serpent. You need a creative that is going to drive people in, and your offer is like 70% of your creative because that's what you're presenting, you're blasting to them. That 30% is going to be visuals and actually making it look nice and not like a piece of crap where it's like, oh, I just made this ad, 30 seconds, get it out. Like I could tell. Sometimes those do well if the offer is good, but that's really lazy because if you put some time into the branding, you can just you build some more, brand recognition, or I don't know. Your focus needs to be on your actual call out to the market. What are you offering to people and how well can you present it? That just comes from, are you really good in Canva? And have you thought the numbers through on an offer that's irresistible, that people will say, that's dang good. I will take that. Like nice. And think about it that way. Like, I know it's all, a lot of times in certain industries and areas, it's about the job that needs to get done. I need pools built. Like it's like, okay. But like I agree with you. And I know you want the number, your revenue to come in from it. But at the same time, how can you get them to work with you? How can you get an irresistible offer in their face? So the main thing here is that you're creative in your offer, right? And so think about it this way. The offer is 70% of the actual creative, and the actual visual aesthetic is 30%. The focus point, even before the visual designs of the ads, which are going to be important, you need to be thinking about, what am I offering to the market that they would say that's dang good? That is not just, if I'm a pool builder, I need pool jobs and you're going to pay me. It's not that. It's, hey, we're giving this to you in this amount of time. Here's, value prop, value prop, value prop. We beat our competitors. We went above and beyond. Even if we sacrifice some margin, we made you a good offer, and then we put that with a good graphic. And you can study the market for that. It's very easy to see. The ads library is out there. And you marry those two elements. I have a good ad and a good offer. Test, 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 test. You have different hooks to do. You have different visual formatting. You have different tone. So you have inquisitive, you have direct shout out, you have testimonial, you have founder statement, right? You have different levers that you can pull. And every week, if you set up the right account cadence, okay, you are going to have new variables. So if testimonials hadn't worked for you before, keep testing to figure out, how can we unlock it? Maybe it's not going to come from a boring static. Maybe it needs to be a video. And if it's not video one, how do we get a better avatar of somebody giving a micro hook? Okay, because everybody's thinking just at the hook overlay level, but what is your testimonial saying? Like, maybe I was in shambles until I heard from this person. Like maybe present the pain first versus I did this and that, and just show the transformation, show the pain. See, there's micro levers that you can be pulling, and that takes a lot of mental energy. So if you're not thinking, if you don't have the capacity to think on that level, then you're wasting your time. If you're thinking about, what's the split between the sale, I don't want to yell, but what's the split between the sales campaign and the awareness campaign? And should I do ABO? Should I do CBO? Like, no. Think deeper. Conquer that transformation and get validation there. This other stuff is a standardized setup. It really doesn't matter. You need to win here. And then you need to learn how to review your numbers. So if we win here, how much did it cost? What is my break-even point? What's my goal? Like in a perfect world, if I'm able to do that, and then a lesser perfect, right? So 2 data points, what's ideal, and form an average for your expectation. It's good to know targets, not just how to set up the ads, because it gives you emotional responses. If I am in the land of Oz, confused as heck, and I'm thinking, how do you even run these campaigns? I'm not in that growth mindset where I'm like, this is my target, this is my off testing, we're going to find a transformation that works. Like a very streamlined approach. You're just going to waste a bunch of time. And what sucks is, you're 12 weeks in, 3 months, and you are still, I'm learning the platform, but you haven't worked on your offer. You've done a bunch of crap here, and you've gotten mediocre results because you're not just tweaking this side of things. There's 3 different components we're talking about, and you're not twisting it here. It sucks. And I spent a lot of time in these other areas, afraid because I didn't have visual design skills. And on the other side of that, I wasn't thinking as a business owner, how can I actually improve not just my margin on the front end, and my break-even point, really basic things, but how can I triumph through frequency? So by even if I have to take off a percentage of my overall margin on the front end, how can I boost the volume of business that I'm doing and actually get a dopamine rush from thinking on that degree where it's I want to conquer scale. And it's not just making your margins better and doing this and that. It's how can you scale, which is frequency. How do you get that frequency up? So that's where you need to be. And that's where those 12 weeks would be better spent. Because 12 weeks of just figuring it out. You're not, it's the learning curve. It's going to suck. It's going to take a lot of time. If you can just focus 12 weeks, dial in. Basic setup takes a couple of hours. Dial it in. That's ideal. Okay. So I don't want to make this too long on the front end side because I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel and figure out, the best formats for it. I'm going to make a part 2, which is going to go over the second part. We covered a lot. Just to recap it, they were asking about their campaign structure initially. So they gave us the debrief. And my take here is that you do not have room to be testing different campaigns in the early stages or the first 2 to 3 years of your campaign. That is a very bold claim. That has a lot of bias to it. A million ways to skin a cat. But what I think is that you need a simplified campaign structure. You need to be sales focused, and you need to put 90% of your time on your creative and your offer. It should be a standardized setup, everything left of that. And then you need to just focus there. You need to learn how to set targets for what is ideal and what is a little less ideal and form that average and start marrying those two things together. Did creative bring this? Did creative bring this? It's iterative. And every week you're presenting new creative variables. So you're coming up with the abstract, you're making it structured, you're running it through as a cycle. It's a machine that you have to build. And your time can't be spent tinkering, thinking, well, what is the ideal structure? Simplify, get to testing, simplify, get testing. That's where you need to be. There's going to be a part 2 on this as we make our way through the document, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.